distinction between installing a new system and replacing it, which replaces the old system. That old system can be either, so this new system can either be a system within an old system, so that would be a revolution within a system, like neoliberal revolution, if you want to call it a revolution. That's a revolution within a system which is still there, which is capitalism. But when capitalism replaced feudal system before it, that was a revolution where a new system replaced an old system. For example, Russian or Revolution of 1917 replaced the old system, the old Tsarist feudal system. I mean, it wasn't entirely a feudal system, but it was a feudal system come early industrial stages of a new capitalist version of the old feudal system. So anyway, there was a systematic change in both cases at some level. So the event which replaces event of revolution is important. And obviously, there's a whole process, and if it is a real revolution as formation of a state within a state, and a society within society, and that process leads to an event if the process is successful. And deeper the process, the event would be, I think, more seamless. But generally, the event is violent because the old system tried to put a last ditch fight, That depends on the strength and the assessment and the inner courage of a system as well. So, for example, Iranian system, there wasn't a much fight at the end from the old system, although there was a subsequent civil war of a sort. But that was the elements within a revolutionary system, because there was an Islamic element, and there was traditional Islamic element, and there was a more modernist Islamic element, and then there was a socialist element, and there were nationalist elements. So once ulama established their hegemony, then the other factions, they sort of tried to. So there was a whole bombing campaign, and obviously America and other imperialist powers supported those terrorist activities, during the first few years of Islamic revolution. But the event is violent, but the violence is not always at the same level. So that's the second thing, 1 and 2. And the third phase is, once a system is established, a new system, then it runs and stabilizes itself according to its own rules. And the dynamic of running a system is totally different from dynamic of replacing the old system. That's what he's saying, or he should have been saying. So this is the dynamic of a replacement of a system. That's totally different from not running a new system, for which you need a internalized system rules, etc. That doesn't involve the same level of repression and violence which you had at these levels when you were trying to replace the old system, for example. So that's what he's saying. Anyone wishing to install a new system rule needs to overcome opposition. The likewise applies to the neoliberal system. The neoliberal system rule, and establishing power is needed in order to set up a new system of rule. And this often entails violence. Okay, you're establishing a new system. That establishing power, however, is not identical with the power that stabilizes the system from inside. That's the internal power. You need a positive power to run a system, stabilize a system. And one of the things, for example, that you have a revolution, and people talk about permanent revolution, but one thing which happens is, once a revolution is successful, every revolution ensures that there's no further revolution. So in a sense, revolutionaries overnight become anti-revolutionaries in that sense, anti-revolutionaries vis-a-vis any counter-revolution. That's very natural, and it applies to all revolution: Islamic, non-Islamic, liberal, non-liberal, etc. For example, neoliberalism was a revolution. Liberalism itself was a revolution. You can read that in Locke's writings and Kant's writings, for example. But in Locke, you can also read that once liberal revolution is successful, then you establish a constitution, for example. And constitutionalism, one of the purposes of constitution is, constitution also provide guidelines for the running of the new system. But one of the major purpose of constitution is to make any future revolution against this system impossible. And I think Iranians learned from that. That's why they put a constitution there, their Islamic constitution, which ensures that there won't be any further revolution as much as possible. And you have violence in establishing a new system because the old system or existing system puts fight against those who are trying to establish a new system. But once a new system is established, what you need now is to defend the system, obviously, but also to run the system. So obviously, the tool through which you will run this system, internal rule for internal stabilization and smooth running of this system, can't be the same which were used in order to overthrow the old system. That's obvious, yeah. That's what basically is talking about. So anyone wishing to install a new system of rule needs to overcome opposition. This likewise applies to the neoliberal system of rule. And establishing power is needed in order to set up a new system of rule, and this often entails violence. That establishing power is not, however, that establishing power is not, however, identical with the power that stabilizes the system on the inside. So this power is the positive power which runs the system. And the former power was a negative power, which was basically aimed at overthrowing the existing system. Okay, so then he gives the example. It's a well-known fact that Margaret Thatcher, as the trailblazers of the neoliberal system, treated the trade union as the enemy within and used violence to fight them. Obviously, that was a revolution within a system, not a genuine revolution. However, violent intervention to assert the neoliberal agenda must not be confused with the power that maintains the system, of course.